He's Tony. I'm Mike. We're here to watch a burn. Episode 46, 1980s, The Blues Brothers. Directed by John Landis. Written by both John Landis and Dan Aykroyd.
Yep.
Starring Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi.
Yeah.
The good Belushi, the dead Belushi. Based on characters that they developed for Saturday Night Live.
Talking to you on a dusty road. Good loving, I got a truckload.
Wait, this is a Saturday Night Live film? Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I was unaware.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's not. I mean, it wasn't produced by like Lorne Michael.
But this was like legitimately like the first, like one of the first Saturday Night Live spin-off films. I did not know that. That's kind of great, actually.
These are characters that they developed, and there were several shorts, and they actually had a #1 record, Briefcase Full of Blues, and all that shit was so popular that they decided to make a movie. Dan Aykroyd was supposed to write the script. He never wrote a script before in his life. And so he just wrote down a bunch of notes about the characters and stuff like that. It was up to John Landis to kind of help make sense of it all because it was like 300-something pages.
Okay,
And they whittled it down to what you see on screen there.
And this was, John Landis was super hot at the time because this was hot off the heels of like Animal House. Mm-hmm.
Which John Belushi was also in.
Kroger, your Delta Tau kind name is Pinto.
Why Pinto?
Why not?
And so and that was a huge comedy, and it all makes sense now that you tell me all that. I didn't realize all that. I just want to know this: how did they get so many music legends to agree to be in one film?
Well,
like
we're skipping ahead a bit here.
Okay,
so
well, go ahead.
The list of people in this cast is staggering.
Yeah.
And we'd be here for 40 minutes just talking about the entire cast, but just hit the big strokes here. Carrie Fisher as Jake's fiance, Cab Calloway as Curtis, John Candy as Burton Mercer. You have the band, which has Steve the Colonel Cropper, Donald the Duck Dunn, Murphy Dunn, Willie Two Big Hall, Tom Bones Malone, Blue Lou Marini, Mr. Fabulous Alan Rubin, and Matt Guitar Murphy.
Yeah.
And then we have our celebrity cameos, the musicians, with James Brown, Shaka Khan, Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, and John Lee Hooker. And there's more on top of that. There's more.
Yeah.
Pee Wee Herman shows up.
Yes, I noticed that. I was going to bring that up, actually. It was like, that was Paul Rubens, wasn't it?
Yes,
it was.
Paul Rubens. Twiggy, who was a
yes,
supermodel
she was the
back
girl.
there.
She was the girl in the car.
Jaguar.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go on and on.
John Landis knew a few people.
Yes. Speaking of which, John Landis was actually in the movie as well. He was one of the cops chasing him through the mall.
Steven Spielberg was in the movie.
Yes.
He was the tax guy at the very end. So I caught that. I was like, that's a very young Steven Spielberg, but it's Steven Spielberg. He took time out of his schedule in between, Close Encounters and Raiders of the Lost Ark and E.T. to show up and do a couple days with John Landis. That's the kind of power you can't buy that. You got to earn that. So
Principal Photography started in 1979. A lot of debauchery on set with John Belushi. Yes.
No, the hell you say? With the cocaine twins in the house?
Right.
So
the stars had a private bar called the Blues Club. It was built on set for themselves to cast the crew and friends. Carrie Fisher was actually Dan Aykroyd's girlfriend at the time.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
shocking. That's some weird stuff. But they were there all the time, and then a lot of the bar staff there was also the drug dealers on site. So yeah, well, the part of the reason why they did that is because they were just going to like all the local hangouts and stuff like that. But like everybody kept coming up to John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd with like coke and shit like that. And so they thought, well, maybe we'll try to mitigate it by having our own bar. Well, that was just a dumb idea. I guess they thought they could keep better tabs on him. He was,
at least they knew where he was. Yeah, they knew where to find him. So, but
yeah. And then this movie has held the record for 18 years of the most cars crashed in a movie with 103.
Not at all surprised. What was the budget on this film?
It started off like at 13 million, and then capped off somewhere around 27 and a half.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense because there's a lot of destruction that goes on in this film.
Yeah, it's a shit ton. There's so many cars crashed. 103. And then let's see here. So it did pretty decent. Not great, but pretty decent. It brought 57 million domestically, and then another 58 million abroad.
Worldwide. So
Yeah. So you know what? 115
For
million
1980
total.
money, that's big money.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I mean, with the budget of almost 30 million.
But you got to remember that back then films really got out there based on word of mouth.
Yeah.
And film wasn't in and out of the theater in like a couple of weeks. It was like one of those held over for the 40th straight week.
Yeah.
So theatrical runs were a lot longer. And really, I mean, like where most people learned about a movie was you'd go to the newspaper and look and see now showing, and then you'd see like the little movie poster and 2 thumbs up, and then you would decide whether or not to go see it or not, or you'd go to the movie theater and look at the posters and go, that one, and that was really about it. So,
Yeah, I mean, you get the occasional trailer on TV, but you didn't see it too terribly often.
I was going to say, Star Wars was kind of the first movie I can think of that was advertised on television.
I remember
So-
seeing an advertisement for this on TV. I do remember going to see it at the theater with my dad.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So I mean, it stuck with me. So I saw this when I was like 5 years old.
I didn't see it until it was broadcast on network television, and then I was kind of like, I don't get it. What's so funny about this? And then I actually saw it with all of the stuff that was cut out, and then I got it. So,
What all did they cut out?
well, most of the restaurant scene, you know, hey, is your daughter for sale?
How much for the little girl? Your women, I want to buy your women, the little girl, your daughters. Sell them to me. Sell me your children. Maitre d'.
All that, the entire, the exchange with the nun at
Oh,
the beginning.
jeez,
Yeah, all
yeah.
the language there, all that was cut out.
You're really up shit creek. Ow!
Christ, Jake, take it easy, man.
What? Ow! Jesus Christ! Ow! Jesus Christ! Ah, shit!
Or at least like all the dialogue was left on the chopping block on that one. Anything that was a little shady or a little dark, yeah, it was all cut out. The only part of this I remember from seeing it on network TV was when they go to the Bob's Country Bunker. That was like the only part that was fairly intact. On that one. So like all the humor was lost. It's as strange as watching Animal House on network TV. There's nothing left of that film when it's all said and done. It's like, this is a comedy? Well, it was. No. But yeah, no, network TV did a number on this one. But back in those days, if a movie was big enough, they'd, cut the shit out of it and throw it on ABC's Monday Night Movie, The Blues Brothers.
It'll be funny to go back and watch a TV edit of Blazing Saddles.
I actually saw that the whole scene where they like roll in and the cowboys are sitting around the fire and they're all eating beans and farting. They cut all the audio out, so it's just a bunch of cowboys sitting around a fire eating. It's that kind of thing that really just destroys the comedy of a scene like that. So yeah,
Anyway.
and this was no different. The plot of this movie is fairly straightforward.
Go ahead.
Jake gets out of prison. Joliet Jake.
Well, thank you, pal. The day I get out of prison, my own brother picks me up in a police car.
They have to go see the Penguin, which is the nun that raised them at the orphanage that they grew up in.
You promised you'd visit the Penguin the day you got out.
Yeah? So I lied to her.
You can't lie to a nun.
And they find out that the orphanage is going to be taken by the state because they owe a tax bill of $5,000, and they go and talk to the janitor of the orphanage, who basically tells them, "Go down to this church. You'll get some direction. You'll know where you're going."
I don't want to listen to no jive-ass preacher talking to me about heaven and hell.
Jake, you get wise. You get to church.
And after they go to the church and see James Brown on stage, Jake has an epiphany.
The band Do you see the light? The band! Do you see the light? What light?
So they decided to put the band back together and go do a couple of gigs and raise the money and pay off the tax bill, and hilarity ensues. And that is legitimately the plot of the film. There's not a lot going on there, but...
Not that wise, but there's a ton of stuff in between.
Yes.
Every scene is just gets funnier and funnier as this movie goes on.
This film has a slow start. It does not start off it's a slow burn until it combusts, and then it's a roaring fire. Because for me, it's when they actually go to the pawn shop, Ray Charles pawn shop, and they have the kid comes in and he's going to steal the guitar, and Ray Charles just shoots at the wall.
It's Mike's the works. Now go on, get. Breaks my heart. Boy, that young going bad.
That's when it gets funny for me, and it doesn't stop from that point forward.
I got enjoyment right off the bat from the time where he gets into even before he gets into the car, when he's getting processed out, and he goes through his list of items that he has, when he got incarcerated, where he's got the black suit, the black hat, the black glasses, $27.18. One condom.
One unused prophylactic. One soiled.
Frank Oz! Frank Oz!
Yes, it's Yoda. Yeah. It started for me right there. And then by the time he gets in the car, he starts bitching about the car. What happened to the Cadillac? Why trade it? Trade it for this? No, I traded for the microphone.
Cadillac we used to have, the Bluesmobile.
I traded it.
Traded the Bluesmobile for this?
No, for a microphone.
Okay, I can see that.
What about this? They're practically giving it away. So, no, I'm not saying it's not enjoyable. I'm just saying for me, it's like you're catching up on like everything that's going on with these characters. I will say this: there's one detail that I love about this film, and it is that they only show John Belushi's eyeballs one time. At the very beginning of it, when he's in jail, they make sure that every camera angle you do not see his eyes at all. So he's either shot from the back, or he's shot from an angle where you can't actually see, or he's shot from above and you see the top of his head. And then he gets out, he's got the sunglasses on through the whole rest of the movie, and then like when he actually runs into Carrie Fisher, who you find out he's jilted, he's left her at the altar, and she's going to kill him, and he's begging for his life, and then he finally takes the glasses off, and he gives her the look. And that's when she just is like, oh, Jake, I could never hurt you. And then he kisses her and then drops her in the mud and bails.
Let's go.
Take it easy.
The funny thing is, like, Ellen doesn't even know who it is. Like, who is this girl?
Yeah.
He doesn't have no clue.
But every one of those exchanges is hilarious. When they're in the phone booth and she tries to blow it up, and then the phone booth comes crashing down, and they're just laying on the ground, and he just turns over and goes,
Hey, Jake. There's got to be at least $7 worth of change here.
hey, there's like $7 and change here. Those are the moments that I find hilarious in this film.
For me, this is like the best musical ever made.
I can see that. I definitely see that.
Hands down. And then every number in this movie works.
Yes. Yes.
My favorites, though, are the Ray Charles one.
Shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, baby. Twist it. Shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, baby.
Yeah. And the Cab Calloway.
Hey folks, here's a story about Minnie the Moocher. She was a low-down hoochie coocher.
It's really good.
Yes.
And here's one thing that I don't think people realize about Cab Calloway, or who even Cab Calloway is. You know what Cab Calloway
Oh, I know
is?
exactly who Cab Calloway is. He was an original old band, one of the big band guys from the 40s. And when, Minnie the Moocher was like one of his really, really big hits. And this is the movie that I think it was kind of a reaction to disco. I think that was a big part of it. They wanted to kind of like go back and go, hey, you know what, a bop's a bop, and these songs are still great, and not everything needs a producer and an electronic organ.
I think you're looking a little too deep in this one. I mean, it could be, but I I never got that vibe. It is around that time though where disco was dying.
Well, Ray Charles.
But there's nothing in there that even hints or suggests disparaging disco. As a matter of fact, the other type of movies even brought up is at Bob's Country Bunker, where they asked,
what kind of music do you usually have here?
Oh, we got both kinds. We got country and western.
rock's never mentioned. No other form of music is mentioned in this movie, so I'm going to disagree with you there.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there was kind of a 1980 was when this film came out. Disco was kind of dying. Everybody knew that it was on its way out. No one really knew what was coming next.
But what does that have to do with Cab Calloway? Because we're going way off topic.
No. What I'm saying is that I think this movie was kind of a reminder of, hey, there's all this great music still floating around out there. There was Aretha Franklin, like she was huge in the late '60s, mid to late '60s, and Ray Charles, and into the early '70s before disco kind of wiped everything out. And I think John Landis and Dan Aykroyd and they kind of wanted to remind people of, hey, there's all this great music. Here's your source for your inspiration. It doesn't have to have 75 tracks and a keyboard. So I'm not saying that it was disparaging, and I'm just saying it was a reminder of, hey, all these musical influences are still here and they're still there. And Cab Calloway, he was huge.
He was massive. He was the frontman of frontmans back in the day.
Yeah.
He was just massive. He had these weird, crazy dances that nobody's seen before. Like, you thought people freaked out over Elvis. Cab Calloway was a step above.
And a decade and a half earlier.
Yes, yes. So Cab Calloway is fucking legit.
And not only that, but he was also back when the big band, the whole big swing thing was going on. He was the superstar.
Yes,
yeah,
literally.
Yeah, I mean, he was a black man that was invited to play for white audiences back in the 40s and 30s.
Yeah.
That was not a thing. Cab Calloway made it a thing. So mad props to the man. And let's be honest, he's every bit as great as this movie reminds you he is.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, he is. Go on YouTube and find some clips of him. You'll be floored.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is like almost 100 years ago now. Almost. Wow. But other favorite numbers of mine was the rawhide scene and Stand By Your Man.
Yes.
Those were the standouts.
Stand by your man. Give him 2 arms to cling to.
What were yours?
Shake Your Tail Feathers, the Ray Charles one, is absolutely spectacular. I love the setup for the rawhide scene because they start to do their regular stage show and they shut the lights off on the stage and.
That ain't no Hank Williams song.
They're throwing beer bottles at him, and then they start the rawhide song, and they turn the lights back on, but people are still throwing beer bottles at them. So you don't know if they're disparaging you or if they're saluting you when they throw the beer bottle. You just got to pay attention to the background.
Theme from the TV show Rawhide. Thank you.
I love that scene. I mean, I enjoy the comedy of that scene. It's not like a great performance, but the very last performance when they actually come on stage and they do, because they were getting ready to start playing, So Glad We Made It? Good Lovin'?
Oh, give me some lovin'.
Give me some lovin', yeah. So, yeah. Well, that was what they started to play at Bob's Country Bunker, and that's when the lights got shut off. And I'm thinking, that song's a bop. How can you turn the lights off on that one? But they did. But we do get the payoff on that. And their delivery of that is so sincere and so well done. And that is John Belushi singing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
like, the man had some chops. I mean, it was legit. So I get why their blues album was
they
a
did.
thing.
Yeah, they did have a number 1 record. So
but Steve Martin had a number 1 record.
Yeah, but it wasn't a musical record. It was a comedy album.
There was it had King Tut on it.
Funky. Did you do the funky?
Born in Arizona, moved to Babylonian King.
It's not the fucking same. It's not even
a banjo was involved.
We gotta pause.
Why do we always hurt the ones we love? Why, Banjo? Why? Banjo!
You're just cracking yourself up today.
Banjo was involved. Come on, that was fire.
But I love the story. I love the redemption story, and it's kind of like, almost like a hero's journey too, kind of the same time.
Yeah.
You know, because like a call to action. You know, we got to save the orphanage, and they meet the old wise person. Curtis kind of helps guide them along and shit like that. But
I was thrilled that they avoided bringing the nun in at the last performance.
Me
As
too.
weird as
Yes,
that sounds,
yes.
her character was so great and so weird and so dark, and I love the fact that she floated around and all the doors open and closed for her.
Get out. And don't come back until you've redeemed yourselves.
As you would never go to a concert. It doesn't matter how good the purpose of that concert was, what the intent was. No way is that character ever showing up. So they stayed
well, she wouldn't
true
show
to
up
the
either
character.
until they redeemed themselves. Anyway, so they weren't redeemed yet.
Well,
so
yeah.
You know.
So you're saying she'd visit him in prison, but she wouldn't actually go to the show where they saved the
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, she's a fucking hard ass. But that Jesus statue, dude.
Which one? There was like 12 of them.
No, the one at the beginning where they walk up the steps. Yes. Oh, dude, that is so imposing and creepy as.
There's another one in her office. So, but no, I was just gonna. The humor's very subtle to begin with on this one, and then it like just goes off the rails at a certain point, and then it just maintains that. I will say this though, and if I had to nitpick at this film, the car chase at the end goes on a little long. I'm sure
it does. It goes a little long.
In 1980, the spectacle of it and the most cars ever wrecked, that all sounds great on a poster or in a press release to promote a film. But like sitting to watch it, you're just kind of like, can we move it along? But it is what it is. And I can accept it for what it is. But like I said, it just felt a little tedious. After you watch the first 50 cars get wrecked, really watching the next 50 is not that big a deal. So.
Yeah. But I mean, you got to ramp it up because before that you have the chase through the mall.
Yeah. Chase through the mall is great.
It's awesome. And it's still one of my favorite parts of the whole movie. I love how they're commentating on the stores as they're driving through.
Disco pants and haircuts.
Yeah.
Pier 1 Imports.
New Oldsmobiles are in early this year.
Baby clothes.
This place has got everything.
The restaurant scene where they go into the restaurant and, the one guy is like, they're rude and they're boorish and they smell bad. And they just decide to amp it up to 11 on that one. There are chuckles to be had that will never be seen on network TV.
I'll put the clip right here.
We're putting the band back together.
I said no, absolutely not.
You, how much for your wife?
It's so good.
So this film is a classic now.
Oh, absolutely.
John Landis, after this, he did what? Twilight Zone? Was it Twilight Zone right after this, or was there a movie in between?
You know more about John Landis than I do.
I'm just gonna say this. Okay, if you know who Max Landis is, John Landis is his dad. John Landis, once upon a time, was one of the most sought-after directors. He did American Werewolf in London after this. Because this movie gave him the clout to do American Werewolf in London because he had trouble getting that one made. He also did Thriller. Yep. So he directed the Thriller video for Michael Jackson, so you can thank him for that one. And then at some point he decided to do the Twilight Zone movie. And they ignored some safety protocols, and they had a horrible tragedy.
Which is a shame. He's a great director. Did he ever come back to do anything?
He came back. He's doing some stuff, but he's not the name that he was.
Well, it's also been fucking 40 years.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. But no, he's still out there. He's still got some clout. He still gets stuff done. He actually, I think, took, like, for a while there, he was doing a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, and he was producing stuff and basically being an executive producer and getting projects made. But he had such a unique voice, and he was able to do a lot of stuff that I can't think of another director that has handled ensemble cast comedies anywhere near as well. And the irony of it is that throughout the entire 80s and 90s, everybody was trying to rip this man off. They wanted to be the next John Landis, but they couldn't do it like John Landis.
No, he's weird. He could take the most ludicrous sized cast, the most ludicrous story, and make it all work.
Yes.
I mean, shit, this movie doesn't make any fucking sense. I mean, let's get down to it.
Well,
like especially chasing at the end.
Yeah.
Where, especially for being chased to the Nazis.
Yeah.
By the Nazis, and they stop at the end of the highway because it just ends right there. They back up. The Bluesmobile does flip over, but the Nazis screw up and they jump, but they jump about 50,000 feet in the air.
I've always loved you.
Yeah, that's about
They
right.
come crashing down. It's like a total Looney Tunes moment. But yet it works somehow or another. I don't know how, but he makes the ship work.
And then weirdly, the other car with Nazis in it goes right into the same hole in the concrete
that they fall into.
Yes, yeah. So no, you're absolutely. It's completely Looney Tunes. The other thing is, John Landis was a detail director. He let the comedy be the comedy, but he didn't do it by being quippy. He did it by actually setting up hilarious situations and letting it be its own thing.
Yes.
But more importantly, when it came to the dance numbers, he could have chinched. He could have cheated it. But no. Full-blown entire city streets filled with dancers that have obviously had a long time to rehearse. And every one of those dance numbers is incredible to watch. They're as much fun to watch now as they were back then.
Yeah. Ferris Bueller, thank your lucky stars that this came out, or else it would have been the twist and shout scene.
Yeah.
Just saying. Which is a great scene.
It really, yeah, it is a great scene, but I'll take Shake Your Tail Feathers over that any day of the week and twice on Tuesdays.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
This movie pays off because at the end of the day, even though you don't know who the hell Carrie Fisher is or what the hell the story is until like the very last scene that she's in, he stayed true to her character. You don't get backstory until he decides to give it to you. You just know this woman is basically trying to kill the Blues Brothers.
You get subtle clues. If you pay attention, you get subtle clues. I love the detail when she's back at her hair salon is curl up and die. Do you notice that?
I did actually.
Now, when in that scene, when she's going through the flamethrower user
manual.
right above it is pictures of her and Jake.
I did not catch the photos.
It's there.
I saw the manual,
It's
but
there.
no, I'm not at all surprised because it's that attention to detail that pays off in spades, and it's also that attention to detail that makes his movies worth going back and rewatching. And it's the same with Animal House. The size of the cast in Animal House is huge. There's so many characters in that film that I could argue that almost any one of them was the main character of it, and yet weirdly, it all goes together. And I'm going to say this right now. Here's where John Landis really gets it. He is a master of directing editing. And I want you to think about that because in this film and in Animal House both, all the character moments, even though you meet most of these characters once and they're gone in 10 minutes, but you get a real feel for them.
You do.
And
you really do.
And you get a feel for everything that's going on in the film because it is masterfully edited. And the dance numbers, it's so much fun because he doesn't just like shoot this big wide shot that you see all these dancers doing it. He gets in there close and you get to see how much fun the dancers are having. You get to see how much fun that Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi are having when Ray Charles is back there banging on that keyboard and it's great. And he knows exactly where to put the camera. He knows exactly what reactions people want to see. He knows exactly how to deliver that. And it pays off even bigger at the end because that's kind of when it starts to get a little Looney Tunes was with the Cab Calloway moment because they're on stage and Jake and Elwood haven't arrived yet. And all of a sudden the curtain opens and and you got the whole big band set up and the band is all in their suits. And there's Cab Calloway dressed exactly as Cab Calloway should be dressed. And you just go with it.
Yeah.
You're along for the ride. But then you also get to see not just Cab Calloway give a great performance, you get to see the reaction of the people in the crowd who I'm sure they're like, oh shit, there I am in the movie after they showed up for it. You get the right amount of John Candy. You get the right amount of the two troopers that have been following him the entire time.
Who wants an orange whip? Orange whip? Orange whip? 3 orange whips.
You really
The Nazis.
The car belongs to a known traffic menace.
What's his name?
His name is Elwood Blues. He's got a record a mile long. And he's a Catholic.
The good old boys.
What the hell are you guys all dressed up for?
We're the good old boys.
You're the good old boys.
Yeah, I mean they get so many so many enemies.
Little
chasing
bit
after them at the end,
characters.
yes.
Little bit characters that should have nothing. But when you see these performances, and you get to see how much fun the people that are actually there for the performances are, it really does increase how much you enjoy it. And you get a real feel for what it's like to be on stage and the rush of that sort of thing. So yeah, John Landis is a masterful director when it comes to editing and when it comes to all these character stuff. And he did pay attention to every detail. Even Aretha Franklin, who's running this shitty little rundown diner, and she's like there in her slippers, in her waitress outfit. And the 3 backup dancers and singers, one of them's a post office worker. I mean, you get so much from all of this. There's a richness and a texture to this that you don't get in a lot of films nowadays.
No.
Is the Cadillac that they spray painted the Blues Brothers on, was that the original Bluesmobile that he sold for the microphone?
I'm gonna say no because that's too nice.
So,
you gotta remember. I mean, look at everything that they owned and where they lived.
well, he did just get out a 3-year stint in Joliet.
Well, he did, yeah, but Elwood was living in that shithole closet right next to the L train.
Well, yeah, but it's a soothing, gentle, vibrating house. So.
Well, it ain't much, but it's home.
How often does the train go by?
So often you won't even notice it.
So no, I'm gonna assume it's probably some piece of shit car.
I was always curious about, because I always assumed like they were big, and they had a budding career going on, and they were known because they were talking about how they used to sell out all these venues and stuff. So the Cadillac seemed appropriate, but then they got desperate and they sold the Cadillac, and I always assumed that they sold it to the one guy. Who was formerly in the band, and he was using that as their band car because they could all fit in it. So
maybe I mean that could be a possibility.
That's my headcanon, and that's how it wound up being painted purple.
Yeah.
So,
but I love how when the band broke up, how they all got different jobs and stuff like that. Where what's his face becomes the head maitre d'.
Yes.
The 2 guys go do the restaurant thing. And the other guys actually stayed together as the band.
Yeah.
At the Holiday Inn. It's such a sad, pathetic scene. Singing those shitty songs, you got the handful of people that are not engaged whatsoever.
And the suits. Let's not forget the suits with the ruffles, because red shirts with ruffles.
Yeah.
Or height of 70s fashion.
Or the guitar equipment with the thick shag carpet, red shag carpet on it. I mean, that's
shag is where it's at.
Yeah,
I'm just
that
saying.
was styling back in the day.
It still is. It's vintage now. But yeah, no. Like I said, this film is hugely influential, and I don't think anybody can argue that one. Why did you pick this film to review? Just because it was on your mind, or?
Oh, this is one of my all-time favorite movies. Period.
So.
Top 10, all day long.
Fair enough.
And not only that, it is the best musical out there, hands down. Fight me, I dare you. But no, it's just always stuck with me. Like I said, I saw it when I was 5 years old. It's one of my earliest memories.
Wow.
Is this movie. And it's just a classic. And again, like you said, there's so much detail. Like, I didn't notice the pictures of Jake and Carrie Fisher until I watched it this last time.
And that's why you buy a Blu-ray, kids. So
and I've seen this movie a shit ton of times. I probably watch it at least once a year.
On VHS.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Low res, no.
But yeah, that's why I recommend it.
So, no, and I'm glad you did.
And this was actually supposed to be our first
in-person.
Yeah, in-person together for the scene that we recreated at the beginning of this episode.
So, there you go. So, but Wow, it's only been a year since then. So.
Right. We just missed it a little bit. It's a recommend for me. Is it a recommend for you?
Oh, it's absolutely a recommend. If you can watch this and not enjoy, this is a movie that is, you can put it on in the background and just enjoy the musical numbers. This is a movie you can sit down and enjoy the comedy aspects of it. If you're really a Hal Needham fan and you need to watch 108 cars get totaled, and or you just don't like Dodge, I mean, that works too. I mean, there's nothing in this film to not like.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you are a student of film, you should watch this because you should be able to appreciate the level of detail and directing and editing prowess that is all throughout this film.
So with all that being said, there's one question left to ask Tony, and that is, what are we watching next?
We're watching I want to say it's 61 or 62. We're watching Planet of the Vampires. And we're watching this movie because it is an old school, weird, I wouldn't say it's a B flick, but it's definitely lower on the lower scale of budget. But it's also a hugely influential flick, and I think there's a lot that needs to be talked about on that one, because when you watch it, you're going to see, wow, everybody ripped this movie off, and you've probably never even heard of it. So,
okay,
so
all right.
I'm thrilled.
We're long overdue anyway. Last thing we done, probably even close to this, is Green Slime, and that was like one of our first dozen.
First 10. I think it was episode number 6 or 7.
I don't know, but yeah, it's been a long time. We got like 100-something episodes now. Well, I mean, videos, I should say.
But Planet of the Vampires. So that'll be coming up for next month's Watch the World Burn.
Musicals. Write them, comment down below. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun junk. Anything you want to say to the audience?
Hi.
And I guess bye. We'll see you the next time.
Those bums won their court case, so they're marching today.
What bums?
The fucking Nazi party.
Illinois Nazis. I hate Illinois Nazis.